Hey everybody, Coach Collard again here with ArizonaShortSaleTV.com. We're just having a little bit of fun, so I was giggling before this thing came up. But wanted to share with you today again, if you're looking at me on the screen, just down to the left, you've got a little box that's yellow and black and it says Alternatives to Foreclosure. I want you to reach out to us. I'm going through this and basically breaking it down. A week or two ago, we had the first option in there, which was do nothing, and we talked about that a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about the next part, and it's, again, alternatives to foreclosure and reasons why the short sales are the better solution. And I'm big on this, but today we're going to cover 2, 3, and 4 from the list. And those are, you can pay off or refinance your loan, you can reinstate your loan, or you could even do a loan modification. And so I'm basically going to poke holes in all that stuff right now because I don't believe in any of that. It's not that I don't completely believe in it, it's just not very likely. So evaluate up front, empower yourself. Let's talk about a payoff or a refinance. What does a payoff or refinance look like right now? Well, rates are fantastic, great options out there, but here's one of the oops, oh, I forgot that one here in Arizona. Most lenders in America, but specifically in Arizona, work off of LTV, which is loan to value or combined loan to value. And if you have a first and a second, or first, second, and third loan, or even a first loan that you didn't put much money down on, it's likely that if you bought that property in 2005, 2006, 2007, maybe even back as far as 2003, 04, you may be underneath that property, meaning you'll owe more than the property's worth. So, you know where you're at. If you didn't put a big chunk of money down, if you didn't put, 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60%, depending on what area you live in, it's likely that you won't have much equity. And it's not like the old days where we could just refinance with a FICO score and everything's grand. You can't state your income anymore. There's a lot of limitations. So if you're familiar with that loan to value conversation, it's likely that you're going to be limited to 80, maybe even 90% in a rate term situation where you're not pulling any cash out. But there's not a whole lot of options, although the rates are very attractive. So I would encourage you to reach out to us. We can get you in contact with great loan officers, really know what they're doing, and they can evaluate you from a loan to value perspective. At a minimum, all it's going to do is cost you a few minutes on the phone and a simple application. Not a big deal. No, it's not going to ding your credit and bring your scores down and all these things that people make up. Those are all lies, 100%. So the idea is to empower yourself so that you know evaluation of your property or a general value of your property. You know whether you have an option to refinance or pay off the loan. Basically, you know where you're at. Refi, there's some FHA options. There's streamlined refinance out there. A lot of people don't know this, but if you have an FHA loan, regardless of the value of the property, if you're current on the property and have been, or at least if you're current in the last 12 months, I believe, I'll have to check with my guy, but if you're current right now, you're eligible for what's called a streamlined refinance, and they basically don't value your weight your property. They just give you a rate term refinance and lower your payment potentially based on where the interest rates are right now, and they're super low. A lot of people don't know that you can do that if you're just current on the loan. So FHA is a great option for people if you already have an FHA loan. So I'll get past that. That's kind of what it is. Let's talk about reinstating the loan. There's not much to it other than this. Well, there's actually two aspects. The first aspect is reinstating the loan, says paying it up, catching it up, so to speak, and you're reinstating the whole thing. The problem with that is what a lot of people aren't aware of is, let's just say you've been 3 months delinquent. You collected 30, 60, 90 days of back fees. Along with that, depending on how far it went, there may be attorney's fees if they filed a trustee sale or a notice of trustee sale. It's important to know that because a lot of times in casual conversation, what we hear and what we talk to our own homeowners about is they say, well, I called the bank and asked them what the last 3 payments were, and they gave me it's $2,000 and change every month, so they gave me a quote of $6,347, and that'll catch it up. So they pay that and catch it up, but it never kills the trustee sale because there's still some legal fees and other considerations. So you've got to get a full payoff or a full reinstatement amount, not just, hey, what are my last 3 payments? Really important to do that from an empowered place. Be careful, be aware of stuff. This is all just being added to the back of your loan, so there's a ton of fees and things, and if you're on a budget, if you're thinking about reinstating the loan and you finally came into some money, be aware that it may not be enough. You've got to make sure you get that exact reinstatement number. So not a huge proponent of that unless you're obviously in a better financial position than you were before or get into a windfall or something. Obviously that's a great thing. Next is loan modifications. Wow, can I even say that openly in public? I can't stand loan modifications. I think they're bogus. I think I'll just say they're bogus. Now, that doesn't mean some loan modifications don't work, but the statistics here in Arizona have shown that less than 10% of all loan modification applications get approved, even get approved. And then generally speaking, 75% or more of the people that get those approved are back in the same situation 6 to 12 months later. Everybody says, well, why is that? Well, let's look at the obvious. What's never been addressed in this is the fact that a loan modification does not take into account the real true area that the homeowner feels victimized in. It's because they're $100,000, $200,000, maybe $300,000 underneath their property. And it's hard to feed the machine or feed the monster, if you will. It's just a giant black hole where at some point they feel like they got to make a business decision, and that's where the whole idea of the strategic default comes into play. Not a big proponent of it, but I am a big proponent of strategic short sales. Here's the deal with loan modifications. It's not that the bank doesn't actually want to help you. I know most of you guys have called them and said, hey, I want to do a loan modification, and they go, we can't talk to you unless you're 60 days late, or you can't do a short sale unless. All of that conversation may be a procedure or a process within the lender, but it doesn't mean it's true, and it's certainly not final. So even if it is true from a procedure standpoint, it's just bogus. They're ill-equipped to handle the volume of what's happening right now. And so you've got to up your mindset and up your game to get through it and get somebody to help you, regardless of whether they say they can or not. Somebody in the bank will and can help you if you're intentional enough about it. So here's one of the things with that. Most homeowners don't have time during the day to spend 2-3 hours a day on the phone. That's what we do. So we're big proponents of, we can help you, but we don't do loan modifications. We're huge opponents of the loan modification because we think it's a short-term, temporary Band-Aid at best. The HAFA programs, all the government programs have proven to fail. So we're not proponents of that stuff. We're proponents of make a strategic decision if it's in your best interest from an attorney standpoint, real estate tax attorney standpoint, and it's viable to do a short sale. It's a very responsible option in today's market if you're feeling financial distress. So we want to encourage you to engage with us, get the information. So again, I'm going to wrap it up right here. Hopefully that educated you just briefly on the options: reinstatement, refinance, or actually refinance first, then reinstatement, and then loan modifications. There's a few options, few benefits out there, but we're not huge proponents of them. Ultimately, I think you should do a short sale. I'm just that way across the board, but we're not attorneys. We don't even play them on the internet here. So we're going to encourage you, if you engage with us, we're going to have you talk to a real estate attorney, a real estate tax attorney, and you're going to know your options. You're going to be very empowered around it. So one last reminder, down here just to the left, the little yellow and black image, it's alternatives to foreclosure and reasons why short sales are the better solution. So we look forward to hearing from you. Reach out to us if you've got questions. We'll respond in like kind with a video and answer everything we can. ArizonaShortSaleTV.com signing off. We'll see you soon.